This month feels long. When I think back to Halloween, inventing ways to celebrate the holiday with my kids while still being safe this year, Halloween feels like a long time ago. The first week of November was a year unto itself, waiting and waiting and waiting to hear the results of the election. Then watching COVID-19 numbers go up and up and up around the country. It's November, almost 9 months into this pandemic. We've seen an explosion of awareness of the racism of this country. Hundreds of thousands of people have died from the coronavirus. Our country continues to be politically divided. There has been and just is so much. It's been a long year. And we've all lost something, some more than others. Some have lost jobs, lost childcare, lost financial security, lost opportunities, lost freedoms. Some of us have lost people we love, lost the ability to say goodbye, lost the ability to grieve collectively. Some of us have lost our own health, our communities of support, our hope in the world. Some of us have even lost our faith. We, as part of this country and as part of this world, have experienced a collective trauma. We've experienced a huge amount of loss in a very short period of time, and our grief is largely disenfranchised grief, meaning our experience of loss cannot be fully acknowledged, socially held, or publicly mourned. In this case, because there's so much, and our society and our community's capacity to process that loss is limited. Many of you may be familiar with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief, which in the grief counseling community is held with a grain of salt. But think of it as this. There are many, many emotions that we feel when we experience a loss. And those many, many emotions can roughly fit into the categories of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But really take those categories and throw them in a paper bag and every so often pick one out and then put it back. And that's how grief works. It's not linear or predictable. It's just kind of a mess. It's a mess, though, like my children's artwork is a mess. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow the rules. It doesn't stay within the lines. Grief is not what any of us would do in our right mind. And yet at the end, the chaos is strangely beautiful. And the process of making that chaotic art feels good. It felt good. It felt good because we need to grieve. It's a core human experience, and we need to express the emotions that we're having about this world and about this year. One of the emotions I'd like to talk about here is anger. The Bible says a lot about anger. God is pretty angry in the Hebrew scriptures, and Jesus warns us about anger in the Christian scriptures. The thing about anger is that anger isn't inherently bad. It's what you do with your anger that can be hurtful or helpful. Anger is a universal human experience, and at its core, anger is simply energy. This energy, anger, when experienced, it needs to be released. And if we don't have a way to express our anger, a way to let it out, then our anger turns inward and begins to poison us. We become depressed, apathetic, we lose our motivation, our passions, our energy to do things. When our anger is expressed outwardly towards another person, though, this can quickly turn to rage and be hurtful. One of the dangers of this, though, is that instead of turning inward and going into that depressed state, when we express our anger outward towards something or someone else, it actually often feels really good. And though many of us have a lot of guilt around this, it's true. It feels good to be angry at someone or something. Isn't that kind of strange? And right now, we have a lot to be angry about. Our various losses we are experiencing, the actions and inactions of the political environment of our country, the restrictions on our freedoms, the slowness in developing a vaccine, climate change, racism, unemployment, the list goes on and on and on. And with so much to be angry about, though, we have a choice. We can swallow that anger and become more depressed, apathetic, and grumpy. We can lash out at our families, our kids, our neighbors, our coworkers, and vent that rage when we experience smaller things that make us angry. Or we can find a third way. This third way isn't easy. The third way never is. Jesus showed that to us. Other people in history have showed that to us. When it isn't an this or that, but it's something in between or somewhere that we have never even fathomed being, it's not easy. I have to say, I can't count how many times I've lost it at my kids this past year because somebody dropped a book on my toe or one of them pushed the other one off of a chair. I've gotten angry at family members and friends, and I've had to control rage sometimes that I've felt towards other people around me. And I've also had deep moments of apathy and depression, wanting to hide and just shut out the world. And for every little thing, my emotions of anger and loss isn't really about that thing. Maybe a little bit is, but not as much as it coming through. It's really about the whole year. And sometimes it feels like a flood is pushing up against the floodgates, just waiting to burst open. But if we as a community are going to heal from this collective trauma, and if we're going to be resilient in walking forwards into the coming future, we need to take responsibility for this anger. And there is actually a third way. So I encourage you to join me in practicing this. Anger is energy. And just like when you feel passionately angry about something you know is wrong, a righteous anger, that anger fuels you to make change happen. Really, anger in any form can be transformed and harnessed to give life rather than destroy it. So take a moment with me. Close your eyes. And take a couple deep breaths. Spend a few moments thinking about all the things that have made you angry in the past year. Big things like the pandemic, racism, climate change, politics. Think about the little things like stubbing your toe, a cake that didn't rise, losing your favorite face mask on a hiking trail, the whining, the incessant whining of your children. Feel the energy of that anger. Feel it in your body and let it fill you up. Fill up your body from that heart space to the tips of your fingers and your toes and the top of your head. Feel the energy of that anger vibrate your body and awaken your senses. Okay. Take a few more deep breaths. Feeling that fullness of energy. Feel that anger as energy. Open your eyes. And now go do something. Rake leaves, stack wood, organize your button collection. Whatever it is that this energy is propelling you to do. Stay away from really serious conversations for the next hour or so. Really try to work it out from your body. Cook dinner, clean your house, go for a run, do something active, something that's moving. Just use this energy, this anger energy, use it to create, use it to be constructive. Because each time we transform our energy, that we transform that anger into something constructive instead of destructive, we widen our capacity. We empty a little bit of our emotional reserves, a little bit of that well that keeps getting filled up with loss and grief and anger. We empty it just a little bit more. and so that we can develop a resilience during this time, and we can heal together as we go forward.